Hey, what's going on everyone? This is Beck Brace, and as promised, this is the first project to create in Python or Node.js. Right, so 81% of you guys have actually voted for Python and 19% only Node.js. But I have read some comments telling here, let's see some of the comments. Enoch Ingatu, he said, I prefer both. Thanks for taking the time to share your knowledge. Well, thank you for being subscribed to the channel, my friend. And in this first tutorial, I'm going to give you this here, the bus schedule based on API or dummy JSON data. Well, it's not an API or dummy JSON data, it's just an array of dummy data. And I'm going to give you that not only in Python, but also in Node.js. We're going to start by Node.js first, and then we are going to see the same exact project in Python. Both of them will be average 12 minutes. It's a very quick project, but you will learn a lot of stuff. For example, how to create a database, how to do data persistence, how to do data entry in both Python and Node.js, and many other functionalities. So I hope you like the idea. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share the video with your friends. And with that out of the way, let's go ahead and start with Node.js. So let me show you first the demonstration on the bus schedule using Node.js. So you can type the time first and then the route. Any time and route that you want to enter, it will be saved in the database, and you will get a message telling you that new bus route added successfully. As you see, I've added Łódź, I've added Warsaw, and I'm adding a third destination, and let it be to Krakow, for example. Great. Now, if I will clear the terminal and I will display again, and you will find that they have been successfully added to the database. You can see here that there is a database file that has been added, which is bus_schedule.db. Right, so let's go ahead and create a folder called bus node, and I will change the directory to that. Then I want to install different modules, so Figlet, Readline, and Choke. So Figlet is responsible of creating the big texts, Readline for user prompt, and Choke just to add some colors. And here, this is a very important step. You need to go to package.json and add type, which is the module. And I will tell you why. Because we will import everything. So we will import Figlet from Figlet, we'll import Chalk from Chalk, and so on. So the require here will not work. You will need to do it this way. Import Figlet, Chalk, SQLite3, and Readline. And by the way, I forgot to install SQLite3. I will do it at the end of the tutorial. So the first thing that I want to do is to create the database connection, and we want to initialize the bus schedule. Right. So the bus schedule, we will create a table basically, but first I want to create the database connection. And if you don't know what's the database connection, I have 3 or 4 tutorials on SQLite3 covering everything in SQLite3. Please go ahead and check them out. Will help you to understand what we are doing. But basically we are creating a variable called db, and that's the main file, that's the main database file. And we want to use the serialize method here to write an arrow function. And then what we want basically is to write some database statements. So we'll say db.run, and we will write our database statement, create table if not exists. So this table, if it doesn't exist, we want to create it, and we're going to call it schedule, and we want 2 attributes, the time, and it's going to be text and primary key, the time and the route, and it's going to be text only. So these are the 2 main attributes in our table. Next, I will create a variable called initialize schedule or initial schedule, and this is going to be basically an array of different time and routes. So we will have different time and routes. 8 goes to route 1, 9:30 to route 2, and so on. So the next thing that I want to do is to create a statement, and this basically will tell the database to insert or ignore into our schedule table, and we will insert the time and the route here. And of course, this goes to the respective values, the time and the route. These are the two interrogation marks. So we're going to take the initial schedule variable and we're going to use for each. So for each schedule item as an input, we want to run schedule item on the statement. And notice that the statement is our database statement that we have basically set to the database to insert or ignore into the schedule, the time, and the route. So now we are just going to give it a little bit of flair to print in big text bus schedule. And we're taking two inputs, the error and the heading. So if error in this case, I want to return using a red color, an error message telling me that this is an error and just failed to generate the heading. Otherwise, we'll return and then we will console log our heading, which is bus schedule basically. Then we want to print the current schedule from the database. And then we want, basically what we want here is to do with the database, we will just select all from the schedule table. Then I'm going to take two inputs, two different parameters. Again, if error, we're going to console log an error message. And in case of rows, I'm going to loop through the rows and display each row in the table. Notice here that the array functions are very, very important if you are going to use Node.js or JavaScript. And that was the main idea here, guys, to learn or to practice the basics first. The basics of JavaScript, the basics of Node.js, the basics of Python. And then we can jump forward to work with frameworks, with Django, React, and so on. So now I'm being we are finalizing our program. Basically, we will insert here a function to prompt the user to enter the route and the destination. So I'm going to create basically this function here, and then we are going to just insert it in the place of that comment where I have written here. We will insert a function. So the function that I'm creating here is prompt user, and I'm going to use the readline module, and the readline module is very important. It's basically like input in Python, right? So we'll have a standard out and standard in here for Readline. So process.standard_in, that's the input, and also the output process.standard_out. And then I'm going to use the readline module to question, enter a new bus route and time. And I'm going also to help the user to write in the correct format. So let's say 5 p.m. to route form, or press enter to quit. So if you will press enter, you will exit and we'll have a message telling us goodbye, and that's what's going to be written next. So input as the main parameter here, we are going to close the read line, and we're going to say that if input.trim is triple equal to, and that's a good practice to do that in JavaScript or Node.js. If the input is nothing, then we will console log goodbye, and we're going to close the connection. I forgot the S here, so don't forget to add an S to db.close, and then return. And then I'm declaring two variables, time and route, input.trim.split. So I'm splitting basically the input, and the split is done by empty space. So here I'm saying if not time doesn't equal to not route, I'm console.log an invalid input. Right? We need to write the input in the correct format. That's why I have written an example above. Otherwise, I'm invoking the prompt user function and we return it. So we're saying db.run insert or ignore into schedule. That's exactly the same thing that we have done above. And then the error input, we are displaying that just if error here. If we have an error, then we're consoling.log again an error message. And then we are invoking the prompt user one more time after the failed with the red color, and return, of course. Then otherwise we are adding the route. Right, so that's the main application here. Now I'm going to add the prompt user function. That's very important. And basically we are done with our program, unless we have some typos. I think I forgot the S in the close.db, and I have actually, yeah, I've actually debugged it after, but I didn't record that. So don't forget to add the S to db.close. There is a small error in the package.json. I forgot the comma maybe. Oh, I forgot basically to install the Sqlite3. Right. So npm install SQLite3, and we will be good to go. I'm having a premium Polish beer, so cheers to you, my friend. All right, so let's go ahead now and run our application. And yeah, there you go. Everything is working perfectly as expected. We have, we will add 6:20. I didn't actually say AM or PM to Chicago. New bus route has been added, and the error message if we will enter a wrong value. So all functionalities are working. And that's basically it. Now let's go ahead and see the same application using Python. So I'm going to create a folder. And inside that folder, I'm going to activate the virtual environment using pip-env shell command. Then you will need to just use your Visual Studio Code, Atom, any other code editor that you prefer. I'm here using Vim. So what I want to do first is to import SQLite3. So that's the main thing, the main module that I want to import. Then I'm defining the database connection and cursor, the same thing that we have done in Node.js. So connection is equal to SQLite3.connect. And here I'm going to call the file bus schedule. You can call it anything you want, exactly the same thing. Then this connection.cursor, I'm creating a cursor. Again, if you're doubting any of that, please check out my SQLite3 tutorials. Now we're going to create the bus schedule table if it does not already exist. The same thing exactly like we have done with Node.js. So c.execute, c which is the cursor, the connection cursor, right? So c.execute, and we're going to write our statement to create the table. So create table if not exists, and again, I'm going to call it schedule, the same name, time, and route. The time is text and primary key, and the route is going to be text only. Next, I want to populate the initial bus schedule in the database if it is empty. So again, we are repeating the same thing. So I'm saying if not c.execute, and I'm going to execute that database statement saying that I want to select everything from the schedule table. Dot fetch all, and fetch all is a method that is going to fetch everything in the table. So bus schedule, and inside here I'm going to just add some dummy data. There, if you remember, it was an array, and here also it's going to be a list. The list is the JavaScript or the Node.js array. Then what I want to do is to take that cursor, that connection, to execute many. So we're executing insert into schedule, time, and routes, because we will have different times with different routes. So that basic method, execute many, is going to help us execute the purpose. And then we are going to commit these statements. Next, I want to print just bus schedule. Notice that I'm not using Figlet or Chalk or the Readline there because we have input, right? We can use input easily in Python. So what I want to do now is to print the schedule from the database. So I'm going to say current bus schedule. And then I'm going to iterate over the c.execute, and we are going to select all from the schedule, and we are going to iterate over the select all from schedule, basically, right? Everything in the schedule, and the iterator here is the row. So with the sub 0 or the 0 index, which is going to be the time, and the 1 index, which is going to be the route. So row and row 0 and row 1, we are concatenating them together. Then I want to allow the data entry. I want the user to be prompted in order to write his own time and route, right? And we will update the database as well. So we're using the while loop here. So we're saying while true, user input is equal to input. We're saying enter a new bus route and time. And again, we are giving the user an example to follow. And then I'm saying if user input is equal to empty. So if nothing, I'm going to break outside of the loop. Then as you can see, I'm going to use the try except code block. So what I'm saying basically is time and route is equal to user input dot split. So we are going to split them by an empty space. Then we are selecting everything from schedule where time is equal to an interrogation mark, and we are passing the time as the placeholder. So if c.fetch1, so if the connection is not none, that means that we want to print an error message. So we're saying that already here is a bus scheduled at that time. Else we will be executing the usual statement to insert into the schedule table the time and the route. And again, we are committing our database statements. Then we are printing new bus route has been ended successfully. Except the value error, we are going to not console log, we're going to print an error message, just simply saying that invalid input. And that's basically it. We're going to print just the updated schedule from our database. So I'm going to say simply here updated from the or updated bus schedule, and I'm going to just print everything using for loop. So for row in c.execute, again we're going to select everything from schedule table. So we will be printing again row 0 plus row 1, right? The time and the route. And at the end, we are going to close the connection. And that's basically it. You see the same exact idea, but the syntax is different. So here I made a mistake. Instead of the semicolon, just the comma, and now it's working. So we have the bus schedule. We have different routes from different times and different routes. You can see 9, 10, and 11, which we have entered or hard-coded in our program, and we can write now the time and the route that we want. 13 p.m. and we want to go to Łódź. Now, new bus route has been added, and I was mistaken in the format. So yeah, not big deal, but you see that everything is working perfectly. So can run that again. We can say 1:22 p.m. We'll go to New York City. That's the new time and route. There you go, guys. Thank you so much. I've shown you both applications, Node.js and Python. Till next time, stay safe and be well.